everybody. Welcome to Positive Impact. My name is Joy Eleanor, and I am your host for today. Positive Impact is a program where we talk about social issues that affect the society and the family generally. Today we have a special guest, and he's going to talk on matters arising on this 2023 election. He is Barrister Jeff Wilcox. He's a legal practitioner, he's a public analyst, and much more. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
Maybach music. Can anybody out there hear me? Hear me?
We welcome to the program, Barrister Jeff. Now, today we're going to look at the 2023 general elections matters arising. The presidential and national assembly elections have come and gone, and I know you witnessed the events leading to the events preceding the elections generally. So, what's your take on that?
Yes, thank you very much. The 2023 general elections was one that Nigerians had very high expectations.
Okay.
One of the factors was that this time more persons decided to get involved, especially that's the voters. We saw that there were more interests as against the previous election cycle since 1999.
Yeah.
One was people felt this time their vote would count. And that's particularly because before now, INEC talked about electronic voting, and INEC introduced technology to the voting system, which is different from what it used to be. In fact, particularly the 2015 election and 2019 election, where the card reader were introduced, then INEC made us believe that this time card reader has now been codified into our law, which is under the Electoral Act of 2022 that was signed into law by the President in February, precisely 25th February 2022. Now, having this election to be aided by technology, and we felt, or Nigerians felt, that since technology is now part of our election, there will be more transparency in the system, and then the incidents of fraud and all that will be eradicated or minimized. So people had that belief. The expectations were very high. And the youths especially, before now the youths were like more like it won't count. They would just ring us out, wow, we bought that. But people felt, and the expectations, even the people in the village, you talk to them, they felt their choice would count. And they came out. We witnessed the election. People came out to vote. INEC introduced beavers, and they had experimented in the Ekiti, Osun election, Anambra election. And those things that made the rounds before the election gave people the confidence to come and vote.
Okay, if I heard it clearly, that people came out because they believed that the electronic system that has been introduced will work. So, did they achieve their aim? Did that work for them?
I will answer this question in two parts.
Okay.
During voting, and in some areas like where I voted, the system worked where I voted. Beavers, which the machine that was used to capture people, worked. But human errors came to play. We use the local parlance, Nigeria happened. The expectation was not met as to if the electronic or the technology aspects that was put into this election worked. Because in as much as beavers worked, towards the end there was now problems. When it has to do with the collation and transmission of results. That's where the issue was. And to my mind, that is human error. Deliberately or not, it's out there for speculation. INEC was not prepared for that aspect because it wasn't about people coming out to vote. It's about voting being counted.
Yes.
Because most of the areas in Port Harcourt where we voted were peaceful. Most areas, people came out, they voted. It was where the issue as to collation after the result has been counted. Now, by the INEC regulations, precisely, the regulation has to talk about 34 and 48. INEC made it mandatory on themselves, the commission, to transmit the results that has been counted to their server, which is the INEC result viewing portal. That was where the issue started.
Okay, so that wasn't, achieved. That was
For the presidential election, that in most polling units, they had to grapple with server issue, network issue, as they said. It could be, the speculation is that it was intentional. That was the confidence aspect where people have voted. Now the result has been counted and announced at the polling unit. Now people are now waiting for the result to go directly to the INEC server. Because before this time, where the rigging most times, the politicians, the bad ones that wants to rig, is doing the transmission of the result. Then they will carry the result from the polling unit. Before they will reach the INEC local council, a lot has happened along the road. Then you cannot tell whether the result announced at the polling unit is what was collected.
Let's look at this. INEC had 4 years to prepare, for this election. So how would you rate the performance of INEC in the first set of election conducted so far?
I will rate INEC poor.
Okay.
Because INEC, like you said, had 4 years. And they made Nigerians believe that they were ready. All the speeches, the conferences, the press release INEC made, the chairman, because INEC now represented by the chairman, all the release he made Nigerians believe that everything was set. In fact, the last election in Osun State was used as a criteria to show that they were ready. Even though right now we see that the election in Osun State has been annulled. I mean, not annulled, has been declared, the winner was wrongly declared to be. So INEC had time to prepare and make those lapses, to correct those lapses. So no, INEC scored poorly.
The president of is it the Bar Association scored INEC 70-80%, and you are scoring INEC poor, meaning it's below that, below 50%.
Yes.
So why?
The president scored INEC in his capacity as an individual who monitored election in his domain where he voted. Now I'm from Rivers State, I'm in Port Harcourt. The election conducted by INEC in Port Harcourt, in Rivers State generally, was poor.
In other words, you're not satisfied with
I
the
am
outcome
not satisfied.
of the election.
It gave room for questions.
But where you voted was peaceful?
Until it was time to send the results. No, voting, when you talk about voting, as before we used to have violence, people coming to snatch ballot boxes. No, that was not
in Rivers State.
Yes, not Rivers State where I voted.
Where you voted,
we didn't hear such incidents. So where I voted was peaceful.
The
people made it peaceful because people wanted to come and cast their vote. So the people, the electorate around my polling unit were coordinated. But the issue now lies in INEC concluding the process.
So do you suspect foul play in that?
I won't blame INEC as a body, but I think it boils down to humans. And because maybe INEC as an institution wanted the election to be free and fair. But their staff, the ad hoc, the security agencies, the politicians. So INEC did not do more, or probably did not avert their mind to these human errors. And sorry, I have to debate. When we talk about these human errors, and we know that election in Nigeria or in some places are seen as winner takes it all. Now INEC, knowing the seriousness of election, needed to do more than they did. It wasn't just enough to have brought this technology. There were more to safeguard this technology. What happens in the issue of network failures? INEC did not put that into consideration and make plan B. So that is where I score INEC poor.
So did you believe that it was network failure?
Yes, in the sense that we want to take, these issues that are arisen from the failure for INEC, because that is where the issue is right now.
Yeah.
The results,
Okay.
not the voting.
Not the voting.
That's where we have an issue.
Okay.
People came out, maybe, of course, we noticed that this year the turnout was not as much as we expected.
Yeah.
But people that came out to vote this time felt that we have voted, so our what we
Vote
said
counts.
should be what we will see.
Yeah.
So INEC perhaps did not. We are for a while now in Nigeria. We all deal on data. What you're doing, your work, it all has to do with data. Network providers. INEC should have known that Nigeria is a vast country and we are not that developed. There are areas that the strength of network is not as strong as in the urban area. What happens in the village? What conditions did you make for incidents like this?
Okay.
If it was me, I think INEC wouldn't have said results shall be transmitted without making options for manual transmission. I know I'm saying this because see, Nigeria, we are not as developed as we think or we thought we are. We are still developing. The urban areas may have developed. What about the local areas? So what I think could have been done was that in conjunction with the manual transmission of results, because that's where the problem lies. Where there is network failure that is not caused by human error, results can be transmitted through the provider. These results are also to be pasted.
Yes.
After voting counting,
Where
you
you
must
paste
paste it. Yes, in polling units.
Yeah.
Now this is where this issue would have been resolved. INEC could have also made that mere snapping of that this inform, I think from EC60E,
Okay.
which is the INEC result sheet.
Yeah.
I think it would have been like mere snapping it and saving it
Yeah.
in the phone of the presiding officer suffice.
Exactly. That would have been.
You understand?
Yeah, because
So now when you snap with your phone, it has time log.
Yeah.
You don't just make rules and don't make this thing allowance for amendments.
Yeah.
Because INEC fix themselves into a box now, and that is the Nigerian problem. We feel we have gotten to that point, but we are still trying to get there. Now, if INEC, if you look at the INEC regulations, that's 34 and 48 I talked about.
Yeah.
INEC talked about transmission and collation and transmission of results. It was derived by the powers given to INEC under section 52(2) of the Electoral Act 2002. The legislature did not say results should be transmitted electronically.
Yeah.
They left it open for INEC. By the power vested on the INEC chairman in the Electoral Act, under section 148 and 149, he went ahead and made the regulations for the conduct of that election. But the regulation itself was faulty. The way it was made, it did not give room for allowances. It only made a straight regulation. And the problem now is that they use the word shall. It said shall be transmitted to. And when you use the word shall in law, it's mandatory.
Yes.
There is no room for discretion.
Yes.
That is where they put themselves in a box. Now that provision may apply, could have worked in Port Harcourt, Lagos, Abuja. What about Kefi? What about Borno State? What about, even in Port Harcourt, what about the village, in maybe one village in Andoni, or maybe in Obiapo, that on that day maybe rain fell, there is no network. So there are things that it should have been in addition to other means of collating and transmitting this result.
Okay.
The presiding officer may transmit the result directly to the INEC server.
Yeah.
We know what they were trying to cure. But we were not yet there, as you saw.
Yeah.
We were not there.
Yeah, but President Buhari said before he leaves, he wants to conduct a free and fair elections. Do you think he achieved that? Would you say he achieved that?
Intention is different from action. That's how I want to say it. His intentions, looking at the fact that he signed the Electoral Act into law a year before the election. So that showed that he intended to conduct. But what about the action on the ground? The action as seen, let's say after the election, did not show that the election was to be free and fair. What happened was, this is my opinion. I am not, because the matters are before the law courts now.
Yeah.
The courts are going to decide by the facts and law before them.
Yeah.
The president did not, to my mind, did not assert his authority. I felt the president of Nigeria could have asserted on INEC, in as much as INEC is independent.
Yeah.
But there are instances where they are answerable to authorities. INEC are answerable to the legislatures. They are answerable to the executive in certain instances. How prepared are you? Did they bother to find out? INEC conducted mock election 2 weeks or so before there were issues that were raised. It was in the news. People were lamenting. From what I think about the style of the president, he believes people should be allowed to do what they ought to do. Okay. And he tried to trust people to do what they have been mandated to do. So he allowed the system. He went to his constituency to vote and remained there. He did not interfere with the system. We saw.
Yeah.
He did not. But that was not enough because...
You think he should have interfered?
No, not interfere like mandate INEC to go. No. At least to ensure that this thing we have put together is working. Because under the new act, that's the 2022 Electoral Act, INEC funds were guaranteed, independent. INEC was to get their money 1 year to the election, as against what was obtained in 2010, where INEC gets their money a few weeks to election. The president allowed them, he gave them the money. And we know how much INEC budget for this election, almost 300 billion. He gave them. So having done that, they say he that pays the piper takes the tune, in quotes. It's not just enough to allow them. If you don't supervise your subordinates, they may not produce as. Because at the end of the day, it falls back to you. Now you are asking me the president, but he's not INEC chairman. The reason why you're asking me the president is because he is the president. Posterity will judge this election by who was the president. So in addition to giving INEC the free hand, you have a supervisory role to play. Calling the INEC chairman, when you start hearing the issues as to election failures of beavers, failures of card reader, what is going on? Because the world was watching. It was a Nigerian election by status in Africa. Everybody was interested and continued to be interested. You heard the statement by the EU Commission, the UK and the US. They are interested. Everybody wants to know who is the next president of Nigeria. And the process that brings the next president must be seen to be fair and acceptable. Not by all, of course, there can't be all. There are people who will not accept whoever emerges, but majority, because that's what the election is about. And if you really wanted the system to be free and fair, when you see that things are going wrong, you have to call the people to order and say, no, this is not what we spent all this money for. Election is a very expensive venture in Nigeria. Looking at the economy, to take over 300 billion out of the Nigerian economy for conduct of election is a serious venture, which shouldn't have been allowed to be free for all. So to my mind, his intentions, yes, but his actions did not show.
So in other words, this election was not, the process wasn't free and fair?
No.
The process is faulty. Something
The
is wrong with
process, if I without prejudice to the various agitations that have now led to institution of election petition, I would say INEC at the beginning wanted it to be fair until human error came in. I call it human error, I have my reason, human error, because it has to do with the people, the officers. Because from what we even
Sorry to cut you. A lot of people believe that, you know, when you say human error, I'm wondering who are these humans. People believe that the beaver issue, you know, is a scam because I mean it was promised, like you rightly said, shall meant legally that it must be done that way. You know, so promising that these results will be transmitted from the beavers to INEC's server, you know, and everyone can see it. I think that was one of the motivating factor. A lot of people came out, some came out for the first time to vote, and only to find out, you know, that wasn't done. The result they collected at the polling station and the result that they're getting, they're not the same. So you keep saying human, so I'm wondering who are these human errors? Because this looks like something that is intentional.
Yes, this was what the technology were to eliminate.
Yes.
Human errors. That was why we had the technology. Beavers and machines are robots. They are garbage in, garbage out.
Okay.
It is how you program the machines that they will function. The machines do not have hands or minds.
So
of their
they
own.
programmed it
So they
not to function
yes,
at that.
exactly.
Yeah.
The transmission aspect, because you had instances where they said the election for the senatorial district went through.
Yeah.
Election results for the national representative went through. Time for the result for the presidential, then there is now server issue.
Okay.
You see, that points to some orchestration by some persons.
Yeah.
I am trying not to put the blame on INEC as a body.
Okay.
I'm trying to see that INEC did not close the doors to eliminate this error.
Yeah.
Because the result has been announced. It is the result until decided otherwise by a court of law.
Yeah. Okay.
We have a president-elect.
Okay.
He is the president-elect, except the courts decide otherwise. But we are talking about the confidence of the people.
Yeah.
Because we were supposed to go back tomorrow, but due to some unforeseen circumstances, INEC has moved it to next week.
Yeah.
The confidence of the people are either deflated or inflated, depending on how you're seeing it. And you know, this particular election had a third force, unlike before. There were the other persons that saw that this is our time to make Nigeria work.
Yeah.
You had, you know their names, they call obedient. So that enough would have put INEC on his toes to know that it is not business as usual. This election was not business as usual.
Yeah.
There were gains to this election. Let's call a spade a spade. They gave the returning winners for National Assembly their certificate of return.
Yeah.
You saw that other political parties made inroads to the National Assembly. That is congratulations to Nigerians.
Yeah.
You're not going to have a one-sided Senate and a one-sided representation.
Yeah.
So it means that the ones that, you can see that's where the problem is, the ones that seem to be free and fair, it worked. So what happened to the presidential election?
Okay. We'll come back to that. Let's look at the security agencies. How would you rate the performance this election prayer? Because we saw videos of, you know, some areas where people were attacked by hoodlums, armed men, you know, people running away with ballot boxes and all that. You were lucky your polling station was calm. So how would you rate the security agencies in this period?
The issue with securing election security is the notion that election is a civil responsibility that should not be militarized. That's where our problem. Well, I would say in most areas, especially the swing states, the very contentious states like Lagos, where the stakes are very high, Like in Port Harcourt, Obiapo because it's a place that has one of the highest voting strength.
Yeah.
So in those areas, the security of those units were poor. Now, the reason is that in every polling unit, if you have noticed, is one police officer or two. In fact, in some areas, they now use, I was surprised to see road safety police and a road safety officer.
Some of the policemen, most of them were not armed.
Yeah, that was it, with a baton.
Yeah.
Now, the reason for that is that our elections are not seen as a warfare. It's seen as civilians coming to perform their civic responsibility. So it should not be militarized. The military or the police, the armed policemen should be distanced away from the pools, from the polling units, so that they do not create the atmosphere of fear. That is the ought to. But that is not our situation in Nigeria. We have seen that our election requires the military or the policemen to be there, if truly to secure the ballot. The reason why talks still come, despite the fact that they have told us Beavers should eliminate that, is because I did not see one police officer with a gun around my polling unit, not even distance away. Now, anybody that wants to cause, I know what these politicians do. Units where they see they don't have the popularity, they go and disrupt the election so that there won't be any result there. Units where they see that they are popular, they allow the election to go on. So INEC and the security agency did not put this consideration into consideration that there are units that you know that is volatile. It's not enough anymore that you just take one police officer. The police officer is a human being. Without arm, he can't do anything. Where boys talks with machetes and somebody even carry guns, and you expect a policeman with pattern that has a family to go back to fight and die, is not what he came for. He came to orderly regulate people. Stay on the queue, it's not your turn. It's not when a talk sponsored by some person now comes to this. He can't do anything. So we also need to look at that aspect of our law that said policemen should not bear arms at the polling unit. So on that aspect, individually, you may not blame the police officer that was unable to overpower a thug trying to snatch ballot box. What about the enforcement that is supposed to be meters away? The law did not say there shouldn't be police backup, but the law says they shouldn't be close to the ballot box so that they do not bring fear into the voter, intimidate voter. But once there is any incident of violence, there has to be a backup, which was supposed to be meters away. We didn't see that. You saw where people were beaten, molested. In fact, one was so horrible that somebody openly caught on camera saying that in this polling unit, this is what we are voting. If you let it, you see, that's to show you that we're more of paying lip service to this thing. Until date, we have not heard. And that's where I come from. Until people are prosecuted and dealt with for election, because under the new rules, there's provision for prosecution of election offenders. INEC has been given the power under the 2022 Electoral Act as against the 2010 to prosecute people. In fact, the power is on INEC and any other legal officer appointed by INEC. And if there is, we say an agent of a disclosed principal in law, if the thug that was arrested points that this is my oga, he is the disclosed principal. He's the one to be prosecuted, in as much as the thug has committed an offense. He also. So until we start prosecuting this violence,
so we don't do that right now. It doesn't. I mean,
you've not said there is nobody that has been. The tribunal goes ahead and say election was marked with violence and fraud and void it, and nobody is being prosecuted. It's business as usual. So you go free committing all sorts. You even kill people in election. Just recently, the man in Kano State was arrested. At least that is going on. The one that I don't want to call anybody's name on air. The one that was allegedly part of the gang that went to burn Rabi Okwankwaso's secretariat. He could do that because before now, you do it and you go free as long as you have the money and the means. So security-wise, in those areas that we knew they were going to be violent, INEC and security agency were not waiting. And just now that they have seen, we still have another one to go. For you to, INEC has another opportunity to redeem its image.
Okay.
If INEC has said, put it on themselves that election are to be transmitted. You know, so in 2019, this was where the issue was. INEC server or no server, remember?
Yes.
Then it was not codified. There was no law that made that a requirement.
Yes.
Now, INEC on its own has gone ahead to make a regulation for themselves. They have told Nigerians we have an IREF, a server. Why are we embarrassing ourselves in the international community? Why are you not using it? It is not enough for you to say on that, why is it that you did not make provision for alternative network? If, forgive me to use it, if MTN did not work on that day, what about Glo? What about Airtel?
Yes.
Why did you make provision for all these networks to be on standby? It means that somebody somewhere, it goes with that saying, didn't want this result to be transmitted.
Correct.
Electronically.
Okay. Okay. Now, like, in addition to snatching of ballot boxes, late arrival of election materials,
Yes.
was one of the challenges that we saw and where people had. So, how do you think this will affect voting again? You know, the election is coming up again, and because there were late arrivals of materials, and many polling.
Yes, with the money INEC got for the 2022 election, this shouldn't be issue.
Okay.
You see, one of the problems we have with logistics is the time frame for distribution of election materials. INEC should not distribute election material a day eve of the election.
When should they distribute it?
It's not enough for you to start, the CBN office in Port Harcourt is somewhere, then you send the election material to the hinterlands. It may not, at the time it will take for it to arrive, putting it in Port Harcourt, will not be the same time it will take.
I think for security reasons, but they should
That
take
is where I'm saying that the security should be made.
Yeah.
See, we've gone past the stage where you say for security reasons because you are seeing that it's not working. And if people are expected to start voting by 8 o'clock and they come out by 8 o'clock, 9, 10, 11, maybe in the sun or rain, and there's nobody there, it will discourage the electorate. He goes back home. You have disenfranchised him. He came out. The point is that if election is to be begin by 8 a.m., INEC should mobilize their officers to be there by 8 a.m.
Please hold your tongue. We take a short break, and viewers will be right back. Don't go away.
Maybach music. Can anybody out there hear me? Hear me?
Welcome back. Before we went on break, we were talking about the late arrival of election materials. So that's where you were trying to give us some analysis.
So I think INEC has to do more with logistics. They have been provided funds for this. The contractors for transportation, they should be ready. And like I was saying, this logistics has to do with time. If INEC has seen that what it would take to transport their materials from the storage facility is longer than they usually have, then you expand it.
Okay.
If election is to be held on Saturday, you can start distributing these materials by Wednesday, at least to this hinterland. Back it with security. Okay, you say the sensitive material. That's why we have the security agents. That's why if you're able to store the sensitive materials somewhere, you can also be able to store it in a location closer to the polling unit, because it kills the motivation that I will come and stand in the rain, sun, waiting for election to start, and there's nobody there. I would feel like some people even said till 2 p.m. they were still waiting for an INEC official. That is, so if the people go back home, it means that there is an orchestrated scheme for them not to vote, or you didn't want voting to go on in that polling unit.
Yeah.
So it's planning. It's planning.
That's very good. With the end of the presidential election and national assembly, most people came out to, complain. They felt disenfranchised, and some also came celebrating. Do you think INEC chairman would be satisfied with his achievement so far with this first conducted election?
Yes, on this aspect, the appraisal on INEC chairman, a man who is dancing doesn't see his back. It is the people that witness the dance. INEC chairman may feel he has done very well for himself. In quotes, the collation and announcement of result went peacefully. There was no, he did not stop halfway.
Yeah.
So political parties tried to stop it. He didn't. It went through. So to him, that is one good for himself. But it has to do with confidence. The commission did not do what he said it would do. I'm not here to hold brief for any political party. The law courts and their legal avenues. I was more particular, but I was more particular about violence.
Okay.
I didn't want there to be civil unrest.
Yeah.
Because what I want to speak particularly on this, yes, it was disappointing that some persons felt things didn't go their way.
Yeah.
But we're a country of laws. We have to trust the system, at least the legal system. It is unfortunate that due to misinformation, a lot of people, I really want to speak on this because it is my parish, as I would use the word. A lot of people feel that there is no confidence in the courts.
Yeah.
That day should never come when we will not have confidence in the courts. Because without the courts, you don't want to live on this earth. Life will be chaos, brutish. But the issue here now is that we have to follow the process. And I commend Nigerians that despite their grievance, everybody held their calm. We didn't see rioting, which I was afraid of, because the generation of the youths now, the types that want to vent their anger and show it immediately. At least we only talked about it, but we did not act it. So yes, people should be able to trust the system. This, in the sense that if you have evidence, because the issue as to vote buying, rigging is a matter of facts and evidence. If because I keep saying this, every political party had polling unit agents at the polling unit. So if truly people did what they ought to do, it means that every political party should know by now, except they're deceiving themselves, what they scored in every polling unit. And tally it with what INEC announced. The Nigerian youths hold this future, this country. You can see the zeal at which they came out. A lot of persons that have never voted this time.
Yeah.
So it's the same zeal. It's not enough. We need 36 state governors. You cannot fix Nigeria at the presidential level alone. The state governors have a lot to play. In fact, most of the governance is done in the state. So it's a very crucial election. The people who lead the states matters. The lawmakers matters. So the same zeal that we came out on the 25th to vote, we should come out.
Thank you so much, Barrister Jeff, for your insights. I have really enjoyed listening to you, and I have been impacted, and I know viewers out there also have been impacted. So we finally come to the end of this program. Viewers, please continue to maintain peace, and please go out and vote. Continue to believe in the justice system, and let's wait for the final judgment. Thank you for watching. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We love you. See you next week. Bye.
Maybach music. Can anybody out there hear me? Hear me?